Welcome to Fighting Over Fiction. I'm Will.
I'm Tash.
And I'm Fraz.
And today we're asking, does Mad Max Fury Road prove that action alone can be a powerful form of storytelling? Let's find out.
Finish her! Will your intro there match the energy of this movie?
It's just all anger and lots of loud noises, I feel.
Is Mad Max Fury Road an angry movie? I mean, it's got Fury in the title.
I just nearly immediately said yes.
I didn't see a single signpost in this movie that said Fury Road left, like Tranquil Road right. That's what I was expecting.
They didn't even drop in the name of the movie. They didn't even go, God, this is going Fury Road now.
Let's take Fury Road down to the east.
Yeah. My name's Max and I feel mad.
Furious.
How are we all? Are you well?
Yeah, good, thank you.
We're doing good.
How are you?
Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm the sun is out.
Finally.
The birds are singing, and it's time to talk about another very sunny movie, which I realise is all post-edit. It wasn't sunny when they filmed it. It was overcast.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
No. What are you guys watching this week?
I binged the whole of Vladimir, which is on Netflix.
You did. So did I.
You did? Oh, interesting. We need to talk about that.
Yes. Did you like it?
I did, actually, yeah.
Did you? Oh, I thought you'd hate this TV show, yeah, because of all the voiceovers and the fourth wall breaking.
See, I did take issue slightly with it, but I feel like the character development was there to negate it a little bit.
It's interesting what you said about it being and not irresponsible narrator, unreliable narrator, because you don't realise that until the very, very end, and then you kind of go back and you go, oh, you're batshit. Right, I'm with you.
Cool.
Okay. Will, what have you been watching?
I've been progressing my way through Ghosts, but I think more notably, we watched Louis Theroux's Inside the Manosphere. Ooh.
Oh, and do you know what? I just don't want to give that flame any fuel whatsoever. I'm just not interested in the discussion.
Yeah. What's wrong with Louis Theroux? Do you not like
Louis Theroux? Just all of this, yeah, just set them on fire, put them on an island and let them just man it out between each other is what I say.
That sounds like a great plan.
Mad Max Fury Road. Directed by George Miller, who also created the original Mad Max films. The film won 6 Oscars at the 88th Academy Awards. Most of the action sequences were created using practical stunts rather than CGI. Filming took place in the Namib Desert in Nambia. I think most people actually just like me doing these facts so I can read all these things I can't pronounce. Mm-hmm. The film's story was largely planned through thousands of storyboards before shooting began.
3,500 panels to be exact.
452 hours of film.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. My favourite thing about this movie... Sorry, I think it is important to note, actually, that we give you these notes, Will, and you've never read them before.
I find them, source them, and put them down for you.
Yeah, and that is 100% deliberate. I really like hearing you just speak from your eyes.
I think there's going to be an Anchorman moment at some point when you're going to put something in. I'm just going to read it out.
Yeah, the story behind this movie I find really, really interesting because I didn't realise it was George Miller who did the original Mad Maxes. I didn't realise that he wanted to make this movie in the 80s. I didn't realise he wanted to make this movie in the 90s and the noughties, and because of one reason or another it couldn't be made. This is very much a dream film for him come true. Some of the casting decisions, like obviously Mel Gibson was originally meant to play...
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, then Heath Ledger was meant to play Max. But then, that happened. It's a fascinating story, and it is an absolute masterclass in editing, this film, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think what makes this film for me is the story behind it, more than the film itself.
Well, that's something that we have discussed before, isn't it? Is discovering the story behind the story is... It enhances the art that you're consuming.
Yeah.
And I must say, George Miller, I'm almost proud of him. Like, I'm pleased for him because there must have been a point in his life where he didn't think that this was ever going to happen. And, he made Babe and he made Babe 2. And that's certainly a swerve off of Fury Road, isn't it? So just... initial reactions, guys. What is your feeling on this film? Where did you first see this film? How do you feel about it now?
I think we first saw it in 2015 when it came out.
Yes.
Didn't we?
Yes.
I think we got the Blu-ray. We still have the Blu-ray.
Do we?
Yeah. At the time, I think I wasn't overly fussed. I think, yeah, this is a good action movie. But again, I didn't know the story behind it. Now I know the story behind it. I went in with very different eyes. I still think mixed feelings really on this film. There are, visually stunning. Story and execution don't always stack up for me, but we'll talk about that.
I think I valued watching the film actually now on this rerun of what I'm going to call it. We have seen it I've seen it a couple of times before, we've seen it this week, and I think before I have just watched it as cars and noises. But now I think we're kind of looking more into film and through this podcast, and kind of the stories that actually are kind of interlaced, and I think I appreciated it quite a lot. I think it is almost what you would call a sports movie in a way, and I don't quite know why. I think it's just because it's the spectacle aspect of it. But yeah, I can see why people wouldn't like it, though. It's not one of those ones where I'm going to fight tooth and nail about it, I think.
Sure. I had a really visceral reaction to this movie when I first watched it. I watched it in the cinema in 2015, and it put me off films, and it put me off the cinema. I hated it that much. Watching it, and I haven't watched it since, and I watched it again this week, and I was determined to go in with as positive an attitude as possible. And my reaction was less visceral, much more apathetic, I think. It's visually very, very impressive. I think I'm a massive fan of practical effects. I will take a dodgy practical effect over a stunning CGI any day of the week. I'm a massive Nicholas Hoult fan. I think he's wonderful, and I think he is the absolute star of this film. About 35 minutes in, I was bored. When you're reading a book and you realise you're just looking at the words, I found myself just looking at the screen and not really absorbing the movie, and I had to start taking notes to try and get myself to engage with it. Learning about the film afterwards has given me an appreciation of it, and I think a lot like Napoleon Dynamite, I can appreciate what has been created, and I can even admit that it is a masterpiece, but it's certainly not for me.
This goes back to the good film versus entertainment, doesn't it?
Does it? I didn't find it entertaining.
That's what I mean. You can look at it as good cinematography and a good film, but you didn't find it as entertaining.
Well, I think this is a massive discussion that we will have to have at some point. Is what is a film? Because is a film a story? Is a film a visual spectacle? Because it won 6 Oscars, and normally when you say a film won 6 Oscars, you go, wow, it won Best Picture, and it won Best Actor, and it won no, it didn't. It won Best Editing, it won Best Cinematography, it won Best Sound Mix, and it deserves all of those accolades, but is that a film? And I mean, that is a discussion for another time, but it didn't land for me.
So how does the film use action sequences to reveal character motivations and relationships without relying on dialogue?
So for me, while this film is mostly action, we're not given that much exposition at all as to who these characters are. We are basically thrust into the situation. Max has been caught. He's trying to escape. We're like, we don't know anything about this guy, but somehow we root for him because he's being treated absolutely abysmally. And again, I think if you put your protagonist in a really shit situation from the start, you're going to naturally go, oh, what's happening with him? I want to follow him and want to see him escape.
They managed to make the war boys instantly dislikable as well.
Yes, they do.
As soon as you put like pasty bald dudes on a on a TV screen, you go, oh, bad guys. Yeah,
it worked. I think that did work really well. I feel like it is refreshing that we did have to get to know them through their behaviour and the choices that they made in a split second, which I think makes it really interesting, because then if you put a character in an impossible situation to make an impossible choice, what you see them do informs you about the sort of person that they are. I think it does work that there's not any dialogue as well to show, things going on, because the characters don't have any time to talk. In real life, if this was happening to you, you wouldn't have any time to have a full conversation. So in a way, it is realistic in that sense.
I hadn't considered that, actually. That's a really good point. I hate it in a movie when there's like a massive battle going on and the battle seems to stop around the two main characters who are having a heartfelt chat about their history with their dad.
And somehow the swords don't quite hit them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, I hadn't considered that. Nice.
And I think this works really well to show Max and Furiosa's kind of growing relationship and their bond, because they don't have time to discuss what the other's thinking. It's like, right, we have to do this now. You're going to have to do this and I'm going to do this to get away from the bad guys.
Okay, so I'm going to call you up on that one. I disagree with you there.
Okay.
I didn't get Max and Furiosa's relationship whatsoever.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So obviously they start out and they're I mean, Furiosa's obviously got a thing against men, which is completely understandable. Max has clearly got a thing against anyone from the Citadel, which again is completely understandable. And then at some point during the movie they exchange this look and it's like, oh, and now they're sympathetic towards each other. And I'm not entirely sure when their motivations aligned. Like, when did Max realize he wanted to save the wives and not just himself? Why did Max not want to go back and save the rest of the Citadel? Like, is Max selfish? Is Furiosa completely selfless? Will, you seemed pretty upset with me there.
I'm upset. I'm sitting there with a massive grin on my face. I think that's fascinating. That's one of the things I absolutely think I would pull out as love about this movie, was their relationship and the way that they had that relationship development of each other without kind of verbal signals towards each other. It was just all done on looks. And I actually feel like when I was picking up those looks and I was kind of developing that relationship with them, the looks that Furiosa gave Max towards the beginning when he's got the mask and that eventually comes off, I found that fascinating. I loved that. I feel that their kind of relationship, I can't name off the top of my head another scenario where it's not romantic. It's two people just working together, almost like colleagues is how I described it last night. I thought it was brilliant. I did.
Now that you say that, between looks, actually, there is one part, and it's when the bullet farmer is chasing them through when they're stuck in the quagmire, and Furiosa puts the gun on Max's shoulder and uses him as a rest. Tom Hardy gives this wonderful look and Charlize Theron doesn't react. That is a good moment, I think. It pulled me out of it a little bit because I was like, well, he'd be deaf now, wouldn't he? And that's one of my pet peeves about movies, about how people don't go deaf when they shoot guns next to their face. But I suppose I still don't buy it, though. I think there are a couple of moments in this film where the character motivations flipped. We had hairpins rather than arcs.
Yes, I agree. I think I would have there were some kind of slower, more reflective moments in the film where I think there was a real opportunity to delve into the character motivations a little bit more. So, it's great to have those moments where they suddenly turn and you think, oh, okay, what's happening here? But then it would have been good to have a little bit of explanation just so you could understand these characters just that tad bit more.
For sure. Sorry, Tash, go on.
I think, talking about that, I'd love to know more about Furiosa's motivation. I think I didn't get a lot of that. Obviously, she wanted to save the wives. She wanted to get away. We know she was taken from the Green Place as a child. But apart from that, we don't know a lot. And I know that there's been recently in the last few years a movie with Anya Taylor-Joy based on Furiosa and her journey when she gets taken. But in Mad Max specifically, I would have wanted to know a little bit more, especially her relationship with Joe, why he trusted her so much at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then she obviously broke that trust to the nth degree.
Was Furiosa one of Joe's children? That's kind of what I
maybe
built in my head because she was an imperator, and they tend to be only trusted that Joe's children are imperators. I don't understand why Furiosa wanted to save the wives and not everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I made a complete assumption with her that she just formed a bond with them,
maybe
in some way, shape, or form. But again, it would have been good to see that, either not necessarily in a flashback, but more when the wives are all in the back of the rig. There was time there to maybe show how they got there.
I suppose it's unfair to ask someone to liberate an entire civilization.
Indeed,
when they have the opportunity to save 5 people. That's probably still a good thing. All right, Tash, can we talk about Nux, please?
Yeah, that was my next point, actually, because I think his transformation is the most well communicated.
Yeah, for sure.
Him getting to know that the redhead wife, I can't remember her name, if she had a name, but their bond was the one that I think really showed the best transformation. And how he then changed and suddenly acted. He saw how dispensable he was by the end there as well when he's given the gun. I
think Nux really communicates the power of Immortan Joe. The way that he's like, he looked at me. Like, it really shows how these war boys are completely sold on this, almost like religious ideology. The way they go on about Valhalla. But then also Nux's line, I live, I die, I live again, which lends itself to reincarnation. So they're clearly being sold many different lies in order to motivate what is essentially just child soldiers, is what Imperator Joe, Immortan Joe has built here. Yes, Nux is my favourite character in this film. Nicholas Hoult is my favourite actor in this film. Nicholas Hoult, I think, is one of these people that I wish would get more roles and bigger roles. I've loved him since Skins. He's incredible. I think and Nux doesn't even have the most lines in this film, but I think all of his lines are the most impactful. And the one moment that really gripped me is when he does sacrifice himself to save the war rig. That bit really got me, and that's only because he'd made me care about the character.
Yeah, I think he's the only character I think we truly cared what happened to.
But going back to the question, all of that is, I've said, all of that was because of dialogue. It was not because of action.
Yes, yeah.
Nux's actions didn't stick with me because they were the same as everyone else's actions. You know, we had car chase and we had like spears with explosions, and then we had arrows with explosions, and then we had pistols with explosions. It was only through the dialogue, I think, that I learned to love the characters or get to know their motivations, not through the action.
So do the visuals and pacing communicate the world and stages effectively?
I would say yes, outright to this question. As much as I found the action and the pacing didn't communicate the characters' motivations or their development arcs, I do think it built a world really effectively. The way the War Boys spoke about Valhalla and the way they were they idolized Joe spoke to this kind of this backstory that you can see developing between the War Boys being brought up. Their use of old world materials in this post-apocalyptic world tells you about how they developed that. Even the spray paint, I think I can imagine them finding this spray paint depot in the background. So this film, I think, beautifully builds a world, and I love a world build. I really do. Other than that, the visuals on their own. Furiosa's arm. Can we just take a minute to talk about Charlize Theron's bionic arm? There is no need whatsoever for her to have a bionic arm, and yet they absolutely smashed it. They did it, and it was perfect. Like I remember Lieutenant Dan and Forrest Gump. You haven't seen it. And there are some moments in there where I was like, how the hell and I've seen modern VFX people look at those scenes and go, how the hell I have no idea how the hell they made Furiosa's arm. That was incredible. The movie, it makes it really hard to take your eyes off it. Like I said, I did kind of start to phase out, but I couldn't stop watching. It was incredible, and yet all the characters are very calm. Along this Fury Road, there's this kind of like stoic nature to all of the calmness, which again goes into world building. It tells you that these characters are used to this exhausting pace. They're used to this fury. They're used to this kind of wild nature. I, however, am not used to it. I found every action scene was essentially the same, just with a slightly different mode of transport, like those little porcupine cars and like the bikes. So I got exhausted and I got bored with it. But to answer the question, the action, the visuals, it did build the world perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the visuals are just stunning. And I mean, it definitely shows that it's a storyboard first movie and the script came later. Because...
Script?
Yeah, there was a script at the end. There was in the end, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just like Tom Hardy looks at Charlize Theron.
There would have been a lot of action lines in that script, I have to tell you. It does rely heavily on the visual storytelling, I completely agree. We know the rules of the wasteland. We know the control of resources equals power very quickly with the water. It creates a lot of immersion. The camera angles put us right in the centre of the action, which is really exciting. However, for me, the pace is so consistent, it becomes almost stagnant. And I found myself going, it's peaked way too soon.
It's like if you're travelling really fast and someone next to you is travelling really fast, you both seem still. Yeah, that did get the film. Interesting you mentioned the water there, because I wanted to bring that up, actually. there's clearly a world that they built here where it's very obviously these different societies where the kind of like the most powerful or the wealthiest have kept all the resources, and that's the way they're controlling the masses. I completely get that. The way that they waste that amount of water really tells you about how much water there really is. There is an insane amount of water. There is an insane amount of resource that they're just not sharing. That's the story that I want to learn about.
Yes, yeah.
It builds the world. It tells you about this kind of like this really evil Joe fella, but it makes me intrigued about more. And all I got was a car chase.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I was left behind a little bit. I was saying, hang on, wait. Oh, okay, they're gone. That's what it felt like. You were just left at the end of the road.
Yeah. It built the world.
Yeah.
But it didn't really tell a story.
No.
I think it was fascinating that they managed to build an entire world. If you think about it and what you're saying, just around a car chase, then like I feel like I fully understand the entire Mad Max world now at this point. Even when you've got that short scene with the crows going over kind of like the swampy area of the old soil, like I thought just that small cut while the cars are going by, I fully know exactly what's happening now. I know what the people look like. I know how they're acting, why they're doing it. I feel like it's really well told.
Okay, so that's a good point. So this is a thing that I'll bring up probably every podcast, and it's one of my favourite things, and it's when a movie uses one short scene to develop an entire character and develop an entire world. They do it wonderfully in films like Children of Men, and that scene that you've just described, absolutely, it does that. It builds this entire world in one particular scene. We're saying about how well they did it in 2 hours.
Yes, yeah.
So, and they did do it really well in 2 hours, but I want more than a world being built in 2 hours. I want a story to be told.
Yeah, I think it's just a very good detailed photograph of a world for me.
So when you're talking about 3,500 panels were being used in a storyboard,
yeah,
what comparison is that to a normal film?
A normal film, you're looking at a few hundred.
Oh wow! So really
wow.
a lot, like
Okay.
a lot in
I would
comparison.
say to 1,000. Yeah, and you're not. Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of storyboard panels.
Tash, you said about there's probably loads of action lines in the dialogue. I can tell you exactly how many there are.
Oh, how many?
There
Tell
are
me.
1,200 action lines in this film, which is interesting because that is a line of dialogue every 6 seconds, which sounds like a lot, but it isn't for a movie.
It's more kind of background dialogue, I
Yes.
would say, and muttering to themselves, or a quick quip,
Yeah.
or
So comparatively, Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron had like 50 to 60 lines each, and there are 1,200 lines in this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, which is kind of insane. One last thing I want to say about the visuals in this movie, and it is my favourite shot in the whole film. It doesn't build a world and doesn't tell a story, but I absolutely loved it so much. Like, it was one of those shots where I went, wow, and I wanted to like give a round of applause to whoever's idea it was. And it's when Max is lying in the sand, and you think it's mountains in the distance, and suddenly the mountains start moving, and it's just Max covered in sand. That is one of the greatest shots I've ever seen in film.
As soon as you started saying about your favourite scene, in my head I went, oh, I hope I get time to talk about this one, and it's the exact same moment. Oh, it's just so good. It's beautiful.
And it does also lead into my favourite scene in the whole film as well. The scene with Max and Furiosa and the wives and their initial fight. And of course Nux is there. He's just kind of semi-conscious through most of it. That's my favourite scene in the whole movie. It's probably the scene with the most dialogue. It's also the scene where you really learn the most about the characters. And you don't learn a great deal about the world.
Would more dialogue elevate the story then?
So as Tash, I say yes, but it all comes down to style.
You are Tash.
well, as me, but it all does come down to stylistic choices. So George Miller obviously didn't want dialogue, otherwise he would have used more dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I am a character first viewer and a character first writer. I write from character first, so I personally wanted more from the dialogue. However, having said that, more dialogue might have undermined the film's distinctive visual storytelling style. Would we have lost what Mad Max Fury Road is now if there was more dialogue, potentially? Because as an audience, we're forced to interpret motivation through behaviour, which I think is really interesting and a concept. However, slightly more reflective moments could deepen certain emotional arcs. Especially, I was so sad that we didn't see more of Furiosa's kin. Like, when we first meet them about half an hour before the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think there was such a gold mine of story there. And whilst we learn a little bit about them through dialogue, I feel like there's moments like that where I feel like dialogue is invaluable.
It's a shame they all seem to die quite quickly and almost get thrown to the side somewhat.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think we could have learnt more there about Furiosa's decision to help with the wives as well, because they say, "Oh, who are these creatures that you have found?" And there was opportunity there for her to just, even a nugget of information, just to make us go, "Oh, right."
The point where we meet Furiosa's family is the point when I really, really lost interest in the film.
Yeah.
Because that's when you realise they really aren't telling a story. They're just turning around and they're going back. And we're going to see the first half of the movie again. I don't understand why they turned back. To go back to the question, would more dialogue elevate the story? I agree with you, Tash. This film needs more dialogue the same way that 12 Angry Men needs more action. This is not a film for dialogue. George Miller didn't want it to be a film for dialogue. This is a concept movie. It is a concept that is played out and is a huge success.
Yeah.
It is, as far as I'm aware, exactly what he wanted, and everyone agrees. This is a film that is very high up on many people's lists. It has been called the greatest action movie of all time, which is difficult to argue with. And I know what you mean when you say, like, as me, Tash. But that's not why we're not answering these questions necessarily as
absolutely.
me. We're trying to look at them objectively. And what I'm learning through watching all these films with you guys is that there are so many parts of films that are objective. But the only thing that really matters when it comes to art is the subjectivity of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's how it makes you feel. And this film didn't make me feel anything because there were no words in it.
I felt frustration.
Yes, yeah. About those stories that you want to hear. And if there was more dialogue, this movie probably becomes a 2-hour, 40-minute movie. And maybe the 2-hour chase scene becomes a 30-minute action scene and we have dialogue all around it. And then it's a different film.
Yeah, then it's not Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, it certainly
it's
doesn't win.
Mad Max Slightly Angry Road.
and it doesn't win 6 Oscars.
No.
And it's not one of the greatest films of all time. Did you want more dialogue, Will, or are you happy?
I feel like I could say a lot on this, but I don't think it's going to add much more benefit, as is the question, really. I don't think it would have benefited from any more dialogue. I agree with you about the story not being improved effectively from it, because that is the film. I think the character development almost would have been spoiled with more dialogue. I think they are the characters they are because they don't say a lot. If it was a different film and a different subject matter, as you said, yeah, totally. I get why you would want more dialogue, but I think it just works for this. I don't think it works for any other movie or any other type of movie. It's just so niche and, standing out on its own.
Yeah. The one thing I would like to know more about, and I think this could have been communicated through dialogue, is, and bear with me here. So at the end of the movie, they get back to the Citadel with dead Joe. Yeah, they've killed Joe, and that is the only thing that is required for all of the war boys to completely turn on everyone and recontrol the Citadel. So my question is, why didn't they already turn, and why didn't they already kill Joe? Like, they massively outnumber everybody. So why do they need someone else to kill Joe to turn? I think that could have been communicated in a single line of dialogue, and you could argue that it is Nux is saying, he looked at me, like they see this guy as a god. Maybe they fear him so much. That's a possibility. However, we then go back to the start of the movie when Joe discovers the wives are missing, and there's that old lady with the shotgun. Why didn't she shoot him? Because he is charging her, and right at the last minute when he grabs the gun, that's when she fired. If she fired that shotgun 10, 15 seconds earlier, we don't have a movie, because Joe's dead and everyone goes, oh, and the war boys take over and everyone lives happily ever after. So that is a very, very convenient plot hole. I hate that term for me, and I think could have been communicated better through dialogue.
I agree.
Do you think it's a plot hole, or do you think it's like any other world dictator or someone who's almost abusive, that it's not actually their real power, it's their projection of power?
For sure, and I think that is true with the War Boys, 100%. And I can put that to one side, and I can understand that purely because of Nicholas Hoult. The old lady with the shotgun, though. Why didn't she shoot him? She wanted to shoot him. She was pointing the gun at him.
Yeah.
And she did fire the gun just half a second too late. And that is one of those moments in film where it just became very, very convenient.
She should have just not had a shotgun.
Yes, or not been there at all.
Or not been there, and he just discovers they're gone, and then that's the end of it.
It could have probably been framed differently.
Yeah, and that's my biggest issue with this whole film, really, is that one scene.
That old lady. See, I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about the kind of feminist undertones of this movie and the portrayal of the wives and the kind of just portrayal of women in this film.
I am fascinated by this question because this is one of the first questions I read from you about this film, and like I said, I haven't seen this film in 10 years, and I had that visceral negative reaction to it, and I was like, I'm sorry, this is a feminist film, and I was absolutely taken aback. I couldn't quite believe it. Then I learned that George Miller hired Eve Ensler, who wrote the Vagina Monologues, to help him develop the characters of the wives. I was like, okay, so there was a deliberate action to make this movie more not necessarily female centric, but sort of with like a feminist thought behind it. It passes the Bechdel test, which is always something that I think I look into.
I love that test.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm actually quite surprised it passed. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yes, no, so was I, and I was expecting that to be my weapon that I come in with, but no. Does this movie have feminist undertones? It has a female protagonist. First of all, would she have survived without Max?
100%.
Okay, sure, maybe not, but she certainly doesn't rely on him, or doesn't rely on him more than he relies on her. They're very much a team. The wives also have their own agency. They like the pregnant wife, I think, is Rosie Huntington Whiteley. Yeah, her hanging out the thing to protect.
I think that was one of my favourite moments because
absolutely wonderful.
I was worried from the start that the wives were going to be portrayed as very much damsels in distress, but it's that moment where I go, oh. Yeah, here we go. She means business.
Yeah, they are action stars all in their own right, and I think that was obvious from their casting. Like they didn't cast damsels, they cast like Zoe Kravitz, for example. She's badass. My one issue with it is that we are introduced to the wives while they are out in the desert wearing white bikinis, hosing themselves down. We didn't have the typical slow motion ankle to tit shot. But it was
Baywatch.
It was slightly gratuitous. Why they needed to be doing that, I'm not entirely sure. But other than that, would I call this a feminist film? No. Would I call it damaging to femininity? No. So, and I think that's what you're after, isn't it? It's a neutrality.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed the neutrality. It wasn't a case of, women coming up and defeating the men, and it was all just women and men working together on equal footing, which is what we want. That's feminism.
Yeah, you get certain movies that produce an eye roll from Sigma Bros because it's so in your face, like women are here to save the day, and I think you don't even notice that the women are the protagonists of this movie. I'm okay. I mean, I'm not going to show it to my daughter, but
I do think, however, something that did give me the ick was the beginning, with they've got the milk.
Yeah,
that made me feel icky. I just thought, do you have to? It just kind of felt like the thing I took from it was that, because it was a post-apocalyptic society, they'd all kind of come back into the womb. The Citadel reminded me of a womb. They'd all gone kind of back into it. It was the provider of water. It was the provider of milk. It was the provider of everything. And it kind of made me kind of see society going back into itself and backtracking, because obviously you've got Joe as the kind of evil dictator. But if that was the idea of it, great. But I just thought, again, it was a little bit, okay.
That's another way that the visuals built the world, but not the story, and where dialogue could have helped.
Yeah.
My other question about it is, why are these wives so important? Like, are they the only fertile women here?
Yeah.
Are they just the most good looking?
They talked a lot about having a perfect child.
So it's clearly rare because, as far as I can tell, Joe has got 2 to 3 children. He's got the big guy whose name I forget, who has that wonderful "I had a baby brother." Like I love that scene. Yeah, perfect in every way. And then I think the disabled guy in the wheelchair with the telescope. I think he was one of, and I think he's an example of someone who's not being ableist here, but not perfect, because they're looking for fighting kind of men essentially in this world. But yeah, I think that could have been explained through dialogue why these women particularly, because I kind of imagine Joe to roll his eyes and goes, I've got a whole society of women that I can pick from because I have all the power. So why these women particularly? But yeah, Will, you got anything feminist to add? Are you a feminist, Will? I mean, I'm not going to ask that question on camera because of course you are.
Yes, of course I am. I think I actually rallied the movie. I do agree about the scene in the desert. I did feel a bit, I don't know if awkward's the right word, but I feel like it seemed almost a bit unnecessary. If it did drive the story forward, that would have been fine, but maybe it did for some other people and it was intended to and didn't come across that way. For me, it didn't. For the mothers in the Citadel, I don't know if that was just the shock factor, potentially. But again, I don't know what it delivered because it's not mentioned again, apart from when
they just appear at the end.
Yeah.
They just appear at the end in the Citadel, don't they? And I just think,
you know when Princess Leia has the gold bikini?
Yeah, it's a bit like that moment.
Well, the thing about that moment is I think that really tells a story about Jabba and how like gross he is. Because once Leia is rescued, she changes her clothes. This is
straight into badass rebel.
Yeah, this is not
uniform.
an eye candy moment. As much as it is an eye candy moment, like that's not what the movie was trying to do. At any point, these wives could have changed. But it was a deliberate decision for them not to change. I mean, maybe we're reading too much into it and it's all about female agency. Like, no, these are my clothes. I want to be wearing my white bikini.
Yeah, but it would have been nice to have that cleared up.
Yeah.
And just be like, right, that's why.
Yeah.
Cool.
Dialogue and how these white clothes don't get dirty in that.
I did think they look pristine.
They do, don't they?
So I presumed that they were important because when we see him charge into that chamber at the beginning of the film where the wives are meant to be, it's almost in that airlock. I presumed it was some kind of like nuclear fallout bunker that stopped them getting the half-life or the cancer and the leukemia and stuff that the rest of the population did. And then that's why he's having and I'm doing quotation in there here, perfect children and kind of fully human as they called them.
So it's not necessarily them in particular, it's just the fact that those were the ones that are put in this kind of like safe zone.
I presume so, yeah.
Okay,
like from birth
good
or something
spot.
like that. Oh, so after all that, and not much furious going on actually, shamefully. Does Mad Max Fury Road prove that action alone can be a powerful form of storytelling?
It can be a powerful form of filmmaking, visually. Storytelling, not so much.
Oh, so you've got like one elbow on the fence there, Tash.
I have,
I'm just going to say no, it cannot. You cannot tell a story through action alone. No, that's not true. I think you can tell a story through action alone.
Silent
films, absolutely. This film is not proof that it can be done, though.
No.
It is an absolute masterpiece of what it is, but no, not for me. Will?
I really am unsure. I feel like that's really unhelpful because I don't want to say yes or no. I feel like it's a really powerful way.
You have to.
Oh, no! Do you know what? I'm just going to stuff it. I'm going to say yes. I think it's proof.
So the image of this episode is going to be me and Will with our boxing gloves on.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
Oh, it's Shawshank Redemption
Watch
all over
out for
again.
It is interesting that we can all appreciate this movie but really disagree on quite a lot about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what are you guys watching this week?
This week, I don't actually know. I'm an open book this week.
I've just started watching Waiting for the Out on BBC.
Oh, okay.
Which is about someone who teaches philosophy in a prison. I went into this movie expecting this kind of like dramedy kind of thing, like
oh yeah.
It's dark and it's gritty and it is it is heavy. I've also just started watching Mayor of Easttown, which is on Sky. It is so this film is one of the highest rated. This TV show is one of the highest rated TV shows that there are.
Yeah.
It stars Kate Winslet, and I'm like, right, yep, I'm in. Absolutely, I'll watch anything with Kate Winslet in. And then the first line is a small town detective, and I roll my eyes and expect the detective,
does things.
Unorthodox detective who doesn't play by the rules but gets the job done, which is my least favourite trope. But I'm going to give it a chance because it is Kate Winslet, and if anyone can do it,
It's Kate Winslet.
It's Sir Kate Winslet. Will, what are you watching?
Rooster's just come out. Or just starting to come out. At least I kind of want to give that a go. I do like Steve Carell. I've seen very mixed reviews, so I'm interested to see how I land. I've seen 10 out of 10s. I've seen 5 out of 10s from all, reputable sources, so I'm interested.
Okay. Tash?
Yeah, open book. I'm going to have a look on Netflix, see what I can find.
Sweet. Been a pleasure, guys. See you later.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.